Hello everyone and welcome back to the Matillion Meets podcast. Today we're joined by another great guest, Maisie Connaghan. She is our commercial account manager. Welcome to the podcast, Maisie.
Thanks, Mira.
So give everyone, before we obviously get into it, a bit of a rundown as to what it is you do at Matillion. Your day-to-day job basically.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I am a commercial account manager. So recently transitioned into this role 2 months ago. So my main responsibility is the delight the customer piece, which we've all heard a lot of, especially at Super All Hands. So I have a book of customers, which I'm their dedicated account manager for, and I focus on the delight piece, the commercial aspects, the upsell, the making sure they don't leave us, overall making sure that they're happy and everything's running the way they should be.
Yeah, so you started off as a sales development rep.
Yeah.
How many years ago was that again now?
So that was around 18 months ago. So
Yeah.
I think, I've been with Matillion just over 18 months. So I came in as a sales development representative, which is a little bit different. So you focus more on the new business side. So that's scheduling and booking meetings for the account executives to create those introductions for those new logos, which we also hear a lot about.
Yeah, so you're moving from that SDR role to your commercial account manager role. Yeah. What was that jump like? Because it was probably a lot more, like you said, like the customer piece, which is probably a bit more personable, getting to know the customers more. What was that jump like for you?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that were different. There's a lot that you can transition over, but the main difference, like you said, is that building relationships. So initially, as a sales development representative, you're trying to generate new relationships, so reaching out to people that might not necessarily know who Matillion is in the first place, and trying to ignite those conversations for further discovery. Whereas as an account manager, you have people that have been using Matillion. It could be 6 months, it could be 5 years, so they all have different experiences of the platform, different tools that they're using. So it's generating those relationships to find out how they're getting over Matillion and how I can support that for further development and growth within the platform.
That's really interesting. And so in terms of the delight in the customer piece, a lot of that is about building relationships, and you're a regular in the office. We see you all the time. If you're in the Manchester office, you'll probably see Maisie most days. And just knowing you, because obviously we know each other outside of filming today.
Yeah.
You're a great person at building relationships. You're always talking to people. You're very personable. Thank you. Is that why you got into this kind of role? Is that where you always envisioned yourself going into the account manager side of things, or did you think more the traditional traditional selling route?
Yeah, so when I came into Matillion, there's the traditional path as the account manager, which is new logo focused, but then once I was here for a while, I realized that there's different positions that you can move into from that SDR role. So the account manager function obviously was one, and that relationship building mindset that you've just explained there is exactly one of the reasons. I like to know what's happened to the customer after they've signed up to Matillion, how they continue to develop with the product, especially with all of the new exciting product releases that are coming out. And then also the relationship piece of building relationships internally. So be able to leverage my technical counterparts or people from product or the customer advocacy team to be able to leverage those internal relationships and also build relationships within Matillion along with building the customer relationship. So exactly that reason why I decided to go into it.
No, I love that. And I can imagine being in your role, or being in sales in general, you probably have lots of touch points throughout the business. So you're constantly talking to people from pretty much every single department, which is really nice. And thinking back to when you first started with Matillion, over a year ago now, you obviously didn't have the most traditional route in. I know your story, but for everyone listening, why don't you tell everyone how you actually got started at Matillion?
Yep, so happy to. As you mentioned, it wasn't really the traditional route of how most people apply for and get a job. So during COVID, I decided to do a master's degree in digital business. I did my dissertation around CRM adoption within companies, and I reached out to different companies to be able to see whether they would want to interview and help me with my dissertation. Kindly, people from Matillion said that yes, we will help you with your dissertation. And I interviewed Ben Redfern, who's now my manager, and also Christian Everard, who used to be with us, just around their implementation of Salesforce at the time, and how that's kind of grown and been adopted within the organization over the years. So after I interviewed them, they then said, hey, have you ever thought about working in sales? Which at the point I hadn't really, because I chosen to do this master's as a transition away from marketing, which was my original degree.
Yeah.
So then they kind of like sparked the idea of maybe I would be good in sales. So then had a look into it, like researched Matillion even more, but got a really good just vibe from speaking to them, and just it felt like it was going to be like a good culture fit. So then then interviewed for the position, and then here I am. However many years later.
It's amazing. So you're selling yourself without even noticing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a born seller, Maisie.
I think sometimes that's the easier way to do it, though, isn't it? Like sometimes we go into a job interview and we put so much pressure on ourselves. And sometimes I found it the same also with the account manager function. Like at first, like I felt like I was like, I need to plan it. I need to have like this, that, and like conversations just go naturally in a certain way. And you just have to be able to follow that and just remember that the other person is also a human.
Yeah. So just letting it all grow organically.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you're in Ben Redfern's team, and for those who don't know, it's a pretty, well, not pretty male dominated, but it is all men apart from you.
Yes.
Which I don't know if you have seen it, but in a previous episode we had Meng Muk on, and she mentioned being like the only female leader when she joined Matillion, which can be quite a daunting experience. No matter how like easy other people might make it for you, it's always nerve-wracking joining a fully male dominated team. So what was that experience like for you when you joined Matillion?
Yeah, definitely. And I've thought a lot about this, especially because we had the International Women's Day recently. So it's been a topic that, I've given a great amount of thought. And as you mentioned, like you can go into a team with people who are like open-minded, like really supportive. And I think one of the benefits that I've had from my team is that we're all very similar as well in terms of like age and things that we like. So then it makes it easier to be able to generate those relationships, to then build trust, to then have those more open conversations. And so I've been really lucky in that sense that everyone's been supportive and I've been able to do that. But there has been times before where I've been in an environment where I've not been able to foster those relationships, and I felt maybe a little bit left out from other people. And it just can be quite difficult sometimes.
So is that something you've experienced regularly, being the only female in like a class or at work? Is that something you've experienced quite often?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been quite a few times throughout my life, whether it's like in my academic or maybe in like a sporting outside of work situation where I've been the only female. I'm maybe just drawn to situations where there's a lot of men and just me, not through any choice of my own. It just seems to happen quite a lot. So there's definitely been situations where I found it more difficult, especially when maybe you're not similar to the people that you're involved with. So then you have to try and find similarities to foster those relationships, build that rapport, and also create those like more open relationships. Definitely things like imposter syndrome seem to dwindle in a little bit in those situations.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a big part of it, is like, especially when you've not got that little like thing that joins you together, or like you might not necessarily share the same hobbies or just have anything in common. So then finding that common ground is so much harder, and then it's just that extra effort you have to put in to find like that connection between each other as well. And then it can often leave you feeling quite left out. And like you said, imposter syndrome can be a big thing, whether it's they're all men and you're a woman, or maybe like the age is different, or whatever it might be. You can feel like you don't really fit in. So how have you like gotten around that? If you have felt that at Matillion, how have you gotten around that feeling?
So I think just generally in life, I've found that one of the things that fuels imposter syndrome, especially for me personally, is that being inauthentic. So like when you're in a situation, like you said, whether it's gender, whether it's like ethnicity, whether it's religion, something that you're not the same to the people that you're around, that maybe people don't understand to a certain capacity. I found that I used to shift myself to fit in, to be like more like other people. And then I think that just fuels imposter syndrome even more, because then you're just being inauthentic, and then you're just questioning the real reasons behind everything that you're doing. Like, do I fit in here? Is it right for me to be here? Am I doing the right thing? Can I actually do this? And also the other side of it, sometimes when you're a minority in a situation, you think, am I here just because I am a woman? Or do you know what I mean? Am I ticking a box? Like, have I actually 100%. Achieved this? Is this it? Like, so I think there's also things like that come into your mind, but you just have to try and list all the good things about yourself, situate why you're actually there, and just reassure yourself that you do deserve everything that's coming to you.
No, 100%. And like you said, I think a lot of it is about trying to be 100% authentically yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that can be really hard, especially if, I don't know if it's a woman thing. I 100% feel it. I don't know about you. Is that whole thing about being a people pleaser and just trying to obviously like do what you think is the right thing, rather than necessarily doing what you envision is what you would naturally do. So do you think that kind of plays into it as well?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think, constantly wanting to maybe not burden other people with things. It is quite obviously you see it across all kinds of people, but I think especially in females, it can be quite a common trait. Just trying to do what is important to you, but is respectful to others is definitely important, because it can lead to burnout. I've found that if you're constantly trying to be inauthentic, please other people, and you push your needs to one side, then you're actually not going to be productive, because you're not going to be doing your job to your highest ability, because you're just going to burn yourself out.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of that, like, what is it that helps zen you out? What's your comfort thing? What's something that empowers you to kind of like keep going on those days where you're just like, I can't really be bothered anymore?
Because I feel like we all get them. Yeah, definitely. I think yoga is a thing that I've do quite a lot of. I actually do my yoga instructor course this year, so that'll be good to explore. Also cooking. I love just food and just being in the kitchen. And I find sometimes it's quite doesn't quite make sense, but sometimes the stress of the kitchen kind of takes my mind off anything else, so it's just the focus on that. Sometimes distracting yourself fully, your mind fully with something else
sometimes you can find like calm in the chaos, can't you? It's quite like therapeutic being like under stress, and then you come out with this nice beautiful dish.
Exactly.
And for context, everyone listening, Maisie always comes in with some delicious like looking, well, I've never, not tasted it, but I assume that was really nice.
I have to bring you on one time.
It's like meal prep. Like, she's very regimented, always has a meal prep with her. Because you're quite like a athletic gym person, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think being active is definitely an important thing in my life. Like we said, it's a step away from work, but also, just like relationships and stuff, like it's the social side of it. So the nutrition side is something that I think is important, that goes hand in hand. And also going back helps with that burnout side of things. I find that if I have like a structure to my life and that everything's like going well with food and fitness and stuff, then everything becomes a little bit more easier to manage.
Everything just starts to fall in place a little bit, and like having that like regimen and just like helps you switch off from like one side and go to the next. So 100%.
Not that I'm like that all the time, because obviously it's unrealistic, but I do try.
In my mind, based on what I see in the office, Maisie's like this picture perfect, like has a meal prep, goes to the gym, does yoga, and what else has it started recently? Ballet.
Ballet and kickboxing.
Yeah,
that's my problem though. I do too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know where you fit it all in? Because by the time I get home, I can't even bother to cook most days. So I'm very impressed.
That is something that I've had to realise with work and home life, is that I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to take this on. And then sometimes I have to be like, okay, strip it back.
Chill
like, what is important? What can you manage?
But I mean, it's not a bad, like, what's the word?
Trait
to have, It's quite a good one.
There's worse traits, but
But no, that's always something that we always talk about, is obviously, like your food and like fitness and stuff. But then I remember you telling me recently something quite interesting about, you went on this trip where you did like foraging.
Oh yeah.
That's a cool hobby that I don't think I've ever heard anyone else talk about. What was that like?
Yeah, so it was really cool. Like I'm a big... Well, I want to be able to, at the moment I live in an apartment, so I want to be able to, like, when I move somewhere with a garden, to be able to like start growing my own food. So like the idea of being able to like just forage bits of like herbs or like mushrooms or whatever. Not that I've really got into the mushrooms yet, because a lot of them look very poisonous and I'm not really that skilled yet on is that mushroom going to kill me, or is it going to taste good?
Maybe we can get you like a book on how to
probably to like how to actually do it, so I don't injure myself. But things like wild garlic or like loads of herbs and things like that, like it would be quite easy to like forage and just add like extra flavour, and plus it's just really like cute and sustainable as well, isn't it?
It's a really nice hobby type. It's something I've always wanted to try, but I think like it's just one of those things you always think, like, where do you even start?
YouTube.
You're someone who has to take a leaf out of your book, is just like, just go for it, just start, no matter what.
Honestly, just try. Just don't eat the poisonous mushrooms.
So what else, like in the world of Maisie Connaghan, what else is it that like gets you going? I can imagine like being in sales, you probably have to travel a lot, or like that might be something, I don't know whether you do it now, but in the future. And then I think you're quite a traveller like in your personal life as well. Is that something that you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, traveling is definitely something that I really enjoy. I think I did 6 months of traveling before I started Matillion around like Southeast Asia, which was really good from just learning about like different cultures, and then also just that time to reset after doing study and coming into work, which I think like set me up for success into this role as well. But yeah, definitely making time to travel, whether it is the opportunities I get with work or outside of that, with our great holidays that we get here at Matillion, which I definitely
just
leverage.
Plug that very slightly. We get 30 days plus well-being days.
But yeah, definitely leverage all of those. So yeah, I got a few holidays planned this year. I think it's really important to balance your work life with your rest time, social aspect. Otherwise, again, just comes back to that burnout piece, which we don't want.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100%. And that brings me nicely on to our fun questions, because we always end the podcast with a few personality questions just to get to know you a little bit more, even though we already have so far, but just something to get to know you a little bit more about you as an individual. So I had one about travel. So I wanted to know the best place that you've ever traveled, and also the place that's next on your list, or maybe your dream destination.
I feel like this is so hard. Like, I'm a person that's like, if you ask me my favorite food, I'd be like,
I love it all.
I can't, like, you need to. But the place that I've been in most recent time that I really enjoyed the most was when I went to the Dolomites last year and did a hike across the Dolomites. So yeah, that was great, and also then finished it in Venice for some like nice wine and pizza and stuff, which is good. But yeah, I think just being they're just like so spectacular to like look at. So I think that big aspects of nature and the earth that just look like really cool, they're like definitely the things that I like the most, along with the wine, but you know that comes at the end of it.
It's like those like bits that make you think like, wow, like just take a step back and be like, this is like earth. So sounds a bit stupid.
No, it does, but yeah, it is. It's like, it's crazy. But yeah, I think definitely places like that are the places I want to go try and see the most, especially with, not to like turn it into like climate change and stuff, but you know, like obviously the world's changing quite a lot, isn't it? So I think it's quite important to like see places while they're still what they are.
No, definitely.
So yeah, that's probably the coolest place that I've been. As of recent, I've got another hike actually coming up in Corsica in June, which will be really cool. But yeah, there's just so many places on the list that I want to go and see.
What's your like, once you've ticked it off your bucket list, like that will be like, yes, I've finally done that. I've been waiting to do that one for like all my life.
I do want to go and spend like I do want to go to New Zealand. I think that's quite far away, isn't it? Like I did go to Australia earlier this year for a friend's wedding, which was like lovely and amazing. But yeah, and the flight is so long, isn't it? So yeah, I think I definitely want to go to New Zealand and spend some time there. But yeah, definitely invest, like you said, invest some time to actually go.
No, it's one of my bucket list places as well. It just looks so beautiful. My next question for you is a bit of a random one, but I thought I've been asked this question before, like for myself. And I thought, because we're quite similar in age, I thought it'd be quite interesting to see what you say. So if you could fast forward or rewind to be any age, any point in your life, what age would you pick and why? Take some time to think about it, because it's quite a hard one, I think.
I think I would rewind to when I was at university again, but not for like the social aspects. I think I didn't appreciate the time that I had there, in the sense of like, now you come and you work your dedicated days, your dedicated hours, like, and then you try and juggle everything on the side of it. Whereas like, I feel like I could have just developed myself so much more and just actually appreciated the time that I had at university. Like the fact that you could just wake up and schedule a day, apart from like the odd lecture that you have. Like I could have done much more than just my degree in that time. But I probably wouldn't have, because I was 18 and I probably just wanted to go out and drink. So but in hindsight, if I was me now, then thinking back, would be such a growth period that you could actually do so much with.
Thinking back, I would hate to think about the like probably the days that I've actually wasted, maybe even weeks that I wasted just doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, just sat in your house chair with your friends, just doing nothing.
Sometimes those are the best memories.
Yeah, they are.
So yeah. It's hindsight's a good thing, but like also like I look back on it rose tinted glasses, like it was the most amazing time of life.
I'm probably it's gonna be like 10 years time and I'll look back and I'll be like, oh, I could have done so much more when I was like 27. Like I just feel like you always have like your intro perspective, is that introspective,
retrospective,
one of them, one of those words.
No, that's that was one of mine. It was when I picked mine, I picked to be like, I think it was like 28 or 29, where you're still, not that anything older than that is old, but you're still relatively young, but you're earning enough, so I have a bit of freedom. But then I couldn't decide between that or like going back to the fun uni time as well. You just had like zero worries and just carefree and having fun.
Yeah, definitely.
And then my last question for you is actually one we ask every guest. Yeah. Because I just think getting to know someone's music taste is how you can really question for me. It's how you can really get to know someone. Or you find out that they've got some really weird music taste and you realise that they're not who you thought they were. So my question to you is, if you could curate your dream festival like lineup, who would that consist of? And they can be dead or alive.
This is a really bad question for me because I actually just listen to like random music. Like, I don't even have like
you don't have a favourite genre or anything?
No, or even like that many favourite artists.
Yeah.
I have a lot of like random songs from different people rather than like it's like an overall artist.
Specific artist, yeah.
But maybe for common themes of my life, I don't know why I listen to a lot of Pop Smoke in the gym. I think it's like the beat of it that like
it gets you really hyped up and like ready to go.
If it's like a long drive, I need to like chill out, probably like Frank Ocean or something.
Nice.
And then if I'm cleaning the house, I'll probably embarrassingly blast Disney songs, to be honest.
I think that's so fair. I would do the exact same thing. And I unashamedly, I don't know if that's even a word, but will put on a Disney playlist. Yeah. Sometimes I do concerts for myself.
I went to Disney on Ice yesterday with my friend and her children. It wasn't just on my own.
Okay, I was good. Oh, that's nice. One of those.
Maybe that's why it's like top of mind as well. It's like pick a song, Disney. It's all I listen to for the past 24 hours.
It just brings you back to a nostalgic time.
Yeah, definitely.
Life, yeah. No, I love that. That's a good top 3.
And going back to women empowerment in the workplace, a lot of more recent Disney songs like Moana and things like that and even like Frozen, Elsa, they're all related around
all the Disney princesses.
Yeah, Disney princesses finding their way and empowering themselves. So
love that. What a good way to round off the podcast. You really wrapped it up back to where we started. She's a pro.
I've done this before.
Yeah. Thank you, Maisie. It's been lovely talking to you as usual.
It's been great.
And thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you join us next time on the Matillion Meets podcast.
Thank you.